This evening we're going to start the second part of the series that we're doing called The Hope of the Resurrection. This is part 2, and the second part is subtitled Messiah's Words on the Resurrection. This evening we're going to do something a little bit different in that we're going to be staying right in the Gospels. We are not going to deviate from the Gospels at all, because as the title of the message shows, we want to see what Messiah said about the resurrection. We're going to start in John chapter 5, verses 21 through 29.
For as the Father raises up the dead and quickeneth them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. For the Father judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son, that all men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honoreth not the Son, honoreth not the Father which sent him. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word, and believeth on him that sent me, hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so has he given to the Son to have life in himself. And he hath given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, in which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice. Some shall come forth, they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation.
Okay, we see here again, just like the last teaching that we did, verses 28 and 29 almost quote Daniel chapter 12 verse 2, in that there will be a resurrection to everlasting life and a resurrection of damnation. There are going to be two resurrections. And we see that at the very end of the scripture, just like it is in Daniel. We're going to look at John chapter 6 verses 37 through 40.
All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that all which he hath given me I shall lose nothing, but shall raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day.
Okay, we see here Messiah speaks against again of the resurrection of life. He, Yahweh Messiah, will raise us up on that last day. And we can see that clearly in the scripture. So clearly there is going to be a resurrection of the righteous people. Again, there will also be a resurrection of the damnation. Okay, now let's look at the next one. John chapter 11, verses 23 through 27.
Yahweh Messiah saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Yahweh the Messiah said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Master, I believe that thou art the Messiah, the Son of Elohim, which should come into the world.
Okay, so we see here, Yahweh Messiah said unto her directly, I am, who is this speaking? Messiah. This would be in the King James red letter edition, this would be in red. I am the resurrection and life. He that believeth on me, in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Now how can we be dead and still live? through the resurrection of Messiah, when we give our lives over to him. And whoso liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? Now, you might say, well, what is this in regards to right here? This might sound familiar, because this whole chapter, chapter 11 of John, talks about the raising of Lazarus from the dead. Again, in these verses, death is referred to as a sleeping. And we saw that in the last teaching, how I said that in the last teaching, how death in Scripture is represented by sleep. And we saw scriptures on that. Messiah said that we will never die. We die one time, but we don't have to die a second time if we believe and live in Yahweh Messiah. You see, we all have to die. That's in Scripture. It's appointed unto men once to die. Notice it said once to die. Because we don't have to die a second time. We don't have to die and be cast into hell. Be part of that resurrection unto damnation and die again. You see, if we're born again of the Word and the Spirit and loving Yahweh and living for Yahweh, that we only will have to die one time. Now we notice here that Messiah says, "You shall not die." What's he talking about? Doesn't this seem contradictory here? No, it isn't, because the Messiah would not ever contradict himself in Scripture. He said in the Scripture, he makes it a little clearer. He says, "You shall never die." He says, we're going to have to die once. You see, we have one death. And I'm so glad for that. Okay, we're going to do a longer reading now, and we're not going to be too much longer on this study tonight. This is one of the shorter studies in this series. But we're going to read Matthew chapter 22, verses 23 through 33.
The same day came the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue, left his wife unto his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third, unto the 7th. And last of all the woman died also. Therefore in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. Yahweh the Messiah answered and said unto them, You do err, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of Elohim. For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but as are of the angels of Elohim in heaven. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by Elohim, saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. Elohim is not the Elohim of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitudes heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine.
Okay, we have a problem here. We have some Sadducees that came to Messiah asking him about this part of the law. And it's in the Scriptures in the Old Testament. You can look it up at a later date, where if a woman dies, a man and woman are married, and he dies, his brother, any of his brethren, from oldest to youngest, are supposed to marry her to bring up seed unto him. Now we see here in this here, it says that this woman had 7 husbands, 7 brothers from this family. Now, I think it's kind of weird. 7 husbands and all 7 died when they were married to this woman. But anyway, it's giving an example here. And it says that she also died. Now, they didn't understand the Scriptures, and the Sadducees here, and they asked whose wife will she be at the resurrection. Messiah corrects them here and says, they all had her. Messiah said unto them, you do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of Elohim. In the resurrection, there's neither marriage nor given to marriage. And that's the scripture. That once we're in heaven, there is no marriage or given to marriage. There'll be no weddings in heaven. We won't need to be married. Okay? But we'll be as the angels. Okay? And he talks about the resurrection of the dead. And he points them back to the Old Testament here of Abraham. What Elohim said to Abraham. He said he's not the Elohim of the dead, but of the living. You see, Messiah, Yahweh, is not is the Elohim, not the Elohim of the dead. The ones we had said earlier, that the damnation, the ones of damnation. He's the ones of the living. Okay? And when the multitude heard this, they were astonished. They didn't understand what he was saying exactly. Okay, so we see here that Elohim is the resurrection of the living. Okay? And the Sadducees asked him about this, and he accounted the first resurrection will be like the angels. There will be no marriages, no weddings, nothing like that. No wedding, nothing. We'll all be like angels in the resurrection. Now, we're going to close tonight with this scripture right here. Matthew chapter 27, verses 52 and 53.
And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Okay,
I did this purposely. In the original study, it had just verse 53 in here, which is, I believe it starts and came out of the graves after his resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. But I want to point out something with this. As I was studying this, I looked at the scripture right before that. If you ever want to study the scriptures, really study the scriptures, you need to read them in context. You need to read before and after a scripture that you want to read, so you can get the full context of that scripture. And notice in verse 52, the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints, resurrection of the living, which slept, arose. Again, this is pointing out that sleep is death is known as a sleep in Scripture. And it points it out right here. It says that they slept when they arose from their sleep, from death. They were all dead, but they arose again. And they went in out of the graves after his resurrection, Messiah's resurrection. So we see here again this evening about the resurrection. We see that we see here Messiah's words on the resurrection. We see in scripture here about the scriptures of the resurrection of life and the resurrection of the damnation. So we want to study these scriptures. You can always go back and just review the study and write the scriptures down if you haven't already. And go back and review the scriptures Messiah said about the resurrection and the importance of the resurrection.
Yahweh's Learning Channel thanks you for watching this video. We hope you were edified by this content. Reach out to us with the information provided on screen, or you may click on the links to view more of our videos. Please subscribe to be notified of new uploads. Until next time, Shalom.